Hello, everyone. Thank you for spending your lunchtime here to listen about blockchain in the public sector. So my name is Thomas Bohner. I'm the blockchain lead at IntellectEU, and I'm here with my colleague Ruben Gevaert, blockchain lead at the studio, to speak about a specific use case, smart cycling, but also about our partnership and the products that we have built. So let's start with the introduction. The studio is a 100% subsidiary of Belfius, and Belfius is one of Belgium's largest banks. And the studio has been founded to commercialize new technologies like artificial intelligence, blockchain, cloud computing, mobile banking. It's not only an R&D, but they really try to leverage these technologies, build new products and services out of it, and make them reusable in the banking environment. For example, currently they have set up an RPA service, Bright Night, and a social media payments product, Pengo. And then we have IntellectEU. IntellectEU is a smart integration and development fintech that has been focused on the financial services industry since its inception in 2006. We're also a Belgian company, but we have a global presence with offices in New York, in Mexico, in Germany, in Belgium, in Portugal, and in Ukraine. We've been a partner of Swift, working with their products and integration. And since last year, we have also set up a dedicated blockchain practice. But our blockchain history goes way back to 2014 when we started as the first integration partner of Ripple. We built products on Ethereum. We're a founding member of Hyperledger, so very glad to stand here today. We were one of the first 20 companies to commit to Hyperledger, work on Hyperledger Fabric code. And so this is also where we're specialized in today, building business applications on top of Hyperledger Fabric. Acknowledging that there is not one blockchain to rule them all, we also work with Corda, Digital Asset, and Quorum. So how did the partnership came to stand? IntellectEU and the studio decided at the end of 2017 that fintech was not here to replace banks, but fintech and banks should work together to leverage new technologies and build new products. And so what started as the idea to set up a blockchain lab to just look into the technology, what can it do, how does it work, how do you set up, how do you build an ecosystem, really became a lab that has built a product, the flow pilots, the smart cycling that we've brought into production. And from that product, we created the idea to create a platform. And that platform is what today we call the token as a service platform. And so the token as a service platform can be seen in 3 layers. And we will start at the bottom where we have the trusted network. And so IntellectEU and the studio together have set up a Hyperledger Fabric network in a production environment. And for that we have leveraged the IntellectEU blockchain as a service, where we use Kubernetes and high availability modes to set up nodes. So currently we have 3 nodes set up, 1 on Azure cloud environment, public cloud, and 2 on AWS. We set up each organization with Kubernetes, with 2 peers, 2 CAs, and an ordering service. And then on top of that blockchain network, we have built a standardized set of smart contracts. Smart contracts to create tokens, to redeem tokens, to transfer tokens, and customizable smart contracts on top of that to offer new token services. Then we have built a set of APIs to integrate with the blockchain network. We've built a proprietary Hyperledger Fabric API and APIs and integrations to interact with the core banking system. And having the open mindset, not only the core banking system of Belfius itself, but also access to other Belgian banks. And then it's to our partners, to our clients. Then we have built an application layer where we say we can sit together with governments, but also with other private companies, with other banks, with other fintechs to digitize assets. And these can be physical assets, like we heard this morning from Hyperledger, who has tokenized the diamonds to track and trace them. We can tokenize art, for example, or real estate. But also assets that we already know today as electronic receipts, like tickets, which get counterfeited a lot and traded on the secondary markets, where we can work together with these companies to provide liquidity. But really, our focus has been on local currencies. Local currencies working together with the public sector and with governments. And this was also the first use case that we brought into production and where Ruben will tell more about.
Thank you, Thomas. So our first use case we built on this platform is flow bikes. And actually the concept of flow bikes is quite easy. We give a hardware device, an IoT sensor, to children, and they can attach it to their bag or to their bicycle. And each time that they arrive at school, the system is tracking this arrival, and depending on the total amount of kilometers and the weather, they're getting digital currencies on the blockchain. And the children, on their hand, can spend those digital currencies at a local merchant or at the swimming pool or at a fair. And actually, this concept existed already 1.5 years ago in a small city in Belgium, namely Bonheiden. And it was, in that days, not a digital process, but just a physical process with physical tokens. And actually, the system was working very good. When they started the project, just 10% of the children was going to school by bicycle. At the end of the project, about 60% was going to school by bicycle. So actually, the concept worked, but it was not that handy. You can imagine that if you have to distribute the right amount of tokens of physical local currencies to the children, and they have to pay with it, and then the merchant can again redeem it to euros, it's not that handy. So they like to digitize it, and that's where we came in. And today we are live in 8 cities with this concept. Next year we have the ambition to go live in 50 more. And maybe also important, people ask often, what's your business case? Actually, it's quite easy. It's a software as a service. So each school is paying a yearly license fee. And also important, there is also a legal perspective. Once you're digitizing a physical asset, a physical currency, to a fully digital currency, you need to have an e-money license, in Europe at least. Why? Because from that day on, you have the power to create or to destroy a new kind of currency. And that's also why Belfius Bank is playing an important role in this setup. I explained already a lot of how the platform is working. Here you can see it in more detail. And maybe you also noticed that I said the merchant can redeem again their local currencies to euros. And how does this work actually? Today, only a city can create tokens. And in the onboarding flow, they give the mandate to the system that the system can take money from their current account and transfer it to a special blocked account at the Belfius site. And only if we get a positive return of this flow, we will create tokens on the blockchain platform. And in that way, we are always sure that for each token on the platform, there is also €1 on the current account. And at the end, the merchant can use the local currency to pay other merchants, or they can redeem it again to euros. And this process is end-to-end fully digital. And of course, blockchain is just a part of the stack here. We also have off-chain databases, off-chain data on just normal databases, and we have a front end. And today we are having 4 applications. One application is for the city, and here they can track a lot of activities. For example, the total amount of CO2 they saved already. There is also a platform for the schools, so they can track also a lot of activities, for example, if a child arrived at school or not. Finally, we also have an application for the children, so they can track the total amount of kilometers they cycle already or their transaction history. So actually it's a mobile banking app for children. And finally, we also have an application for the merchant. So he can scan a QR code that the child can initiate, so they can make the payment. They can also redeem it again to euros. The invoicing system is also in this application. So, and this is flow bikes. And this was our first use case, but today other use cases are popping up too. And actually the idea is always the same. You have, or they want to digitize a physical valuable asset to a digital asset. And most of the time they also like to do transactions with this valuable asset in a digital way. And that's why a secure and auditable database is becoming very important. And most of the time, those use cases started from a community. And they don't want to have one central party that can create or destroy this valuable asset. And in the same perspective, transparency to the end users, to the community, is also important in most of the use cases. And last but not least, we believe that today we are building a piece of truth, and other use cases in the future can be built around. So we believe this can bootstrap new ecosystems. So thank you for your attention. After the session, we are open for questions. Thanks.